So, I know you know a lot about Japanese designers. Junya Watanabe, Yoji Yamamoto, Black Means, Rei Kawakubo, Takahiro Miyashita, the whole lot. But today, as the title says, we're gonna talk about how Japanese fashion, Japanese designers infiltrated the West, the Western fashion industry. The reason why this is an interesting topic to dive into is because Japanese design, Japanese aesthetic, Japanese art, historically speaking, obviously the relationship with World War I, World War II, and how the Western society view Asian art or Asian people in general has affected their assimilation into the Western fashion world. So today I'm gonna dive into how I think Japanese fashion infiltrated the West with the help of this paper written by Dr. Tets Kimura, talking about how the Japanese aesthetic, Japanese style pierced through that thick veil of Parisian fashion. Here, I'd like to note that the term Japanese fashion or Japanese designer is hyper bastardized because when I say Japanese fashion, or when most people say Japanese fashion, it's a really generalized term, right? It cannot actually represent what Japanese fashion or who Japanese designers are because they are different. So when I say Japanese designers, Japanese fashion, I'm talking about those who have made an appearance or a big appearance in the Western fashion society, Western fashion scene. It's gonna get really artsy and deep divey from this point on, so without further ado, let's get into it. So in the mentioned paper, Dr. Tets Kimura actually said that there are two waves of how Japanese aesthetic, Japanese style, Japanese art invaded Paris or invaded the West. But here I am telling you, actually, there aren't two waves. In total, there are 6 waves. 3 main waves, and within the second waves, there are 3 more waves. And I'll explain to you why. It's all really confusing right now, but I assure you it's worth it. If you love Japanese fashion, you will stay to the end because this is mind-blowing. First wave is called Japonism, which is a pretty superficial art movement. This is actually a terminology coined in the late 19th century referring to the craze for Japanese art. The appreciation for Japanese art, Japanese aesthetic back then is pretty superficial. How so? Because it didn't come from a place of understanding. It simply came from the fact that, hey, this is new, this is refreshing. I like that. I want to wear that. I want to have item with that cherry blossom pattern. I want to wear kimonos. That type of superficial infatuation. And according to the art story, this type of infatuation is borderline pervasive. As seen here in this painting, the portrait of Madame Henriette, I think, is wearing the kimono not in a traditional way, because traditionally everything's like super tight, whereas she's just wearing it like a bathrobe. Stated by Dr. Tets in the article, also quoting Akiko Hukai, this is what they wrote. This indicates that although there was a degree of Japanese fashion adoption in Europe, Japan's influence in fashion was limited to the introduction of Japanese style motifs and the adaptation of silk weaving techniques and stencil dyeing to execute them. The clothes themselves remain essentially European in form. It is Orientalism at its finest. But this marks the first craze, the first official craze for Japanese art or Oriental art. It is a pretty straightforward period of time, and that's the first wave. And here comes the second wave, which refers to when Japanese designers debut in the West. And remember at the beginning of the video, I said that within the second wave, there are 3 more waves, and I'm gonna call it 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. And the reason why I think there are 3 more waves that Dr. Tets did not mention is because I think the West acceptance of Japanese designers and their work is gradually more and more aggressive and unwelcoming. And you will know why. I think you know why, but let me explain to you. In 2.1, we have designers like Kenzo Takada, Hanae Mori, and Kansai Yamamoto. And in 2.2, I've put Issey Miyake. He took the whole 2.2 wave. And then in 2.3, we have Rei Kawakubo and Yoji Yamamoto. Hanae Mori debuted her first collection in 1966 in New York City, and I think Kenzo Takada's first collection was in 1970 Paris, and Kansai Yamamoto was also like late 60s, early 70s in New York. Each to their own unique style, unique philosophy, but one element that's seen through all 3 designers' work is the level of flamboyance and boldness, colors, and just really fun and interesting to look at. It is a fusion between Japanese style, traditional style, and also what's been going on in the West. It is the element of East meet West. And quoting Dr. Tets in a paper once again, by not breaking the system of Western clothing or the concept of aesthetics. And therefore, the journalists or the fashion world in general are really accepting of these three designers' work because they look fun. Hey, yes, Japanese designers, oh my god, traditional Japanese style I haven't seen before. But this is not offensive to us, right? That's why we like it. Here comes 2.2, Issey Miyake, which debuted his first collection in 1973, I believe, in New York City as well. But it's just like 3 years after the first three designers' debut, so why is he taking 2.2 alone? What's so different? It is because while he's also displaying an East meet West element in his work, his avant-garde vision is way more intrusive and offensive to the Western standard than the others. And according to Valerie Steele, famous fashion historian, in this paper, Is Japan Still the Future? She said that Issey Miyake is one of the first, or the first, contemporary fashion designer to be acknowledged as making art. And you and I both know Issey Miyake pioneered crazy pleating techniques. I mean, there's, other people before him that did that, but that's his signature, right? The pleating technique. And also, he has created a lot of clothes that make people realize that, wait, is this art? Wait, is this clothes? Is this wearable art? Is this art that's trying to be fashion? I don't know. This is weird. I don't like what I'm seeing. So it is Issey Miyake's work that start to invite and attract a lot of different critics and journalists in the industry questioning his work because it is good looking on one hand, but it's also really weird, not wearable, not commercial enough like the first three designers I mentioned. But once again, it invites two-sided arguments. A lot of people love Issey's work. But then a lot of people questioned it. Not hate, but questioned. Now, I've talked about 2.2 and 2.1, the difference between 2.2 and 2.1. You will now know why I put Rei Kawakubo and Yohji Yamamoto in 2.3. It is because their work is straight up intrusive and offensive to the Parisian fashion world, where the existing fashion standard, beauty standard, the way people assess what's good fashion, what's sexy fashion, what's feminine fashion, has all been destroyed, thrown out the window. Rei Kawakubo and Yohji Yamamoto is here to set a new path in the fashion industry. Insensitive comments were made. One of the most famous one, Hiroshima chic, Hiroshima bag lady look, fashion Pearl Harbor. That's crazy. A critic at Le Figaro, one of the biggest French paper, right? I'm gonna read the quote, right? The critic who dismissed Kawakubo's work as patched up clothes, miserableism, brand new rags tied up hastily in tatters. And there's one more, not from the same critic, but there's one more, which is, how much do people want to look tattered? You have to have a large pair of shoulders and a right attitude to wear them. Most are bulky layers. They do nothing for the figure, and for all the money going into health and fitness, why look like a shopping bag lady? Completely missing the point. Well, I guess not missing the point, they just don't understand it yet. But on the flip side of these crazy comments, insensitive comments, borderline hurtful comments, there are a lot of people in supportive of Rei Kawakubo's work because they think that she's really brave for trying to introduce something new, trying to break boundaries. Also, I guess the focus on black color really empowered a lot of people who loves dressing black and who previously already kind of going against the current, going against the normal beauty fashion standard that is seen throughout the Parisian fashion scene. It is this 2.3 wave that planted a whole new side of what Japanese designers are. They're not just here to incorporate Japanese aesthetic into the Western fashion standard. No, we're not just here to play. We're here to tell you, hey, we have our own philosophy, we have our own style, we have our own thing, and I'm here to introduce it to the world. Like it or hate it, you have to, acknowledge our power and, I guess, influence in the industry. But that's only 2.3. What about the third wave that I mentioned? Because I said there's 6 waves in total, besides first wave and the 2. The whole 2 wave, and then the 2.1, 2.2, and 3. What about the third wave? You said there's a third wave. The third wave that I think is happening, that Dr. Tets did not even see coming, is our collective increasing interest and understanding in Japanese archive fashion. When the first wave, Japonism, is fueled by superficial understanding or basically ignorance, this wave that we're currently in, the third wave, is completely fueled by knowledge and information and the thirst for trying to understand more about what Japanese fashion actually mean besides just Rei Kawakubo, besides just Junya Watanabe. We all know that in every culture there's something that's uniquely theirs, right? There's one thing that you say, hey, African fashion, you think of something. Chinese fashion, you think of something. Paris fashion, you think of something. Japanese fashion, I think made in Japan, the term made in Japan, a lot of people think it's quality, it's people taking time, it's people understanding what they want, taking time with their craft and making something that's true to them. It's authenticity. I think it is driven by our deeper understanding of the culture, our increasing interest in trying to learn more about Japan, whether it's just the history, the culture, the art, the aesthetic, the fashion, that make us discover more brands like, as I said, Black Means, 2047, 1120, General Research, a lot of other brands that locally, if you grew up in Japan, you will know about them already. But to us who didn't grow up in Japan, these are something that we just recently discovered. And wow, oh my God, these people deserve way more credit than people talk about them because their work is insane. And with these three waves, right? Japonism, and then the second wave is when Japanese designers invaded the West. And then the third is after us being known that Japanese fashion represent this, now we want to know more. There's got to be more. It is, in my opinion, that these three waves combine gradually from first, which is superficial understanding of what Japanese art is, to now we will go out of our way to try to find the rarest piece, try to find the rarest information just to know a little bit more about this brand that you recently discovered has contributed new meanings to what Japanese fashion stands for.